Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for the 2024 MLS season for your Philadelphia Union. And as upsetting as that may be, we're going to discuss it here today on PHLY Union Podcast. Welcome, everybody, to today's edition. Of course, I am JP Zapata, joined as always with the lovely Renee Washington, and we got the man Andrew Frazier behind the glass.
What's going on?
I'm so happy to hang out with you guys. I'm ready to also do a little venting because I think a lot of people in Philadelphia, especially the fans of the Philadelphia Union, could use some venting here on a day like today. Disappointing season. And I think that we all kind of saw this coming with the way the season was kind of playing out. A lot of bad luck kind of felt like, bad play. We're all very, very frustrated to say the least. And we're going to just kind of, obviously, look, it's the first day since the season ended for all of us to kind of just let our emotions out, right? All these thoughts, all these feelings. I've seen so many opinions online as well, and I completely understand. So we're going to try to unpack all that. Of course, look at yesterday's match, or Saturday's match. But
so it's cool if
feeling?
I scream. It's cool if I scream
because
I just want to scream. Ah!
Well, Renee.
Wow.
How are you feeling?
Wow.
We had screaming. I'm more of a. I feel like a Karen right now. I'm a Karen vibe.
You're a Karen? How are you a Karen?
I'm just complaining, you know?
But this is actually justified complaining.
Yeah.
So I don't think that makes you a Karen. I think that makes
You have to be somewhere in the middle.
an accurate person. I'm sorry, as in like I'm like tweeting out the thing right now. I am in disbelief.
That's a good word.
Thank you. Trying to like reach into my synonyms bag, my thesaurus, because I just feel like when you really think about this team this season, how the heck did we end up here?
That's a good question.
How did we get here? How did we get here? Like, how did we get here?
Yeah.
From where it started to where it finished, this season might have had some of the worst, call it luck, call it chaos, call it drama, call it whatever you want to call it. This is one of those seasons that, okay, let me preface this by saying there are teams, the Chicagos of the world, that didn't even have a fighting chance at a playoff spot. So technically, yes, it could be worse. But to get all the way to the finish line and still have opportunities to clinch a playoff spot, only to have an own goal.
Oh.
I said it, guys. I said it. An own goal.
Yeah.
Be the difference. Like, what? So, how am I? I'm alive. You know, the Union, I'm at a point now, sports cannot hurt me. Teams can
That's
no
right.
longer
I think I'm there
hurt
with
me.
you. I think
like,
I'm there with
you're
you.
not going to have me losing sleep. You're not going to have me depressed. You're not going to have me, like, old, younger me was at a point where, you know, a team loses, Phillies lose and get knocked out of the NLDS, Union lose and don't even make the playoffs for the first time since 2017. Younger me would be depressed and upset. Nope, I'm not doing it. You're not having that control over my life.
Can't get to us. Cannot get to
Well,
us.
at this point, we're battle tested here in Philadelphia.
We are.
You know,
We're so numb.
bring on the scars, bring on the punches,
numb.
bring on everything. You know, we're going to take it. You know, we're not going to lose it. You know, we've watched the Phillies, we've watched the Eagles.
We even watched the opening day announcement that Joel Embiid and Paul George are not going to play today for the Sixers.
We have no Sixers
kickstart
team.
the season without two of your big three. No
Yep.
big deal, right?
Yep. So we know what it means about misery here in Philadelphia, and you know, at this point, just keep piling it on. Come
So I
on.
have a question for you guys before we go down this rabbit hole of venting about the Union. And I know I see people in the chat sharing their thoughts. If misery enjoys company, how do we get rid of the misery out of Philly? Because it feels like all of our teams, like when you look at one individually, it's not actually, aside from the Flyers right now, knock on wood, because we just have no expectations for them. Every other team, Eagles, Sixers, Phillies, Union especially, you look at them and once you think one is giving you hope, then they join the rest. Yeah. So who can change? Who can truly change things so we can get rid of this
you have to,
bad omen that's just
You
over
gotta do
the
a cleansing.
city?
You have to have a cleansing.
Let's
get the white. Let's get the
To
white
some
sage.
Kyrie Irving sage and just.
We just got to go around the city and cleanse the omens, the bad demons that are here, because something is lingering and it's something fierce.
Guys,
has got a hold of us.
What do the New England Patriots, the Houston Astros, and Inter Miami all have in common?
Championships?
cheating, guys. We're trying to be good Samaritans here. We're trying to do things the right way. Guys, screw this. Screw the morality. I'm trying to win championships here. So
is that where we are? It's time to start cheating.
We gotta start cheating, guys. We gotta start being JOs.
We gotta cheat. We gotta cheat, right?
You gotta cheat.
If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
That's right.
So maybe that's really what it is.
Well, BC, you know what? Because you have been so loyal to us, screw it. Go Galaxy. Galaxy all the way. All right. Bring home the cup.
I like my guy, John McCarthy.
Yeah.
A former classmate.
Yeah. Johnny Mac.
I'll root for Johnny Mac. Love him and his family.
Yeah, exactly. BC, you got us. We're all on the Galaxy train.
Well, I see in the chat we've got some thoughts of...
that we do.
My boy Mike Thomas.
This is a safe space, guys.
Yes,
It's a safe space. Come vent with us. Come share, because we have all off season to talk about this team. Mike Thomas is talking about, it's like when you have that nice house on your block and then the owner goes 3 years without doing any maintenance to it, and then all of a sudden that nice house starts to fall apart. That is the Union, yes.
Go away.
Richard Cable, I believe is how you say your last name.
Think
You're
so,
saying
yeah.
it's tough to keep up success when you run it back 3 straight years. The common denominator here is 3, definitely.
Amen.
And then I would say, yep, people often ask why I support this team. I don't really have a good answer for them because besides the fact that's my local team and I'm only a 45-minute drive to the stadium. Mm-hmm.
That's dedication right there.
It is definitely self-inflicted pain. I do think, to your point, BC, maybe this time, if I have to choose a team to win, you're saying Galaxy's going to beat Miami in the final 3-2. I haven't even thought that far ahead because I hadn't thought that far ahead. But I'm with you. Maybe it's time that we start rooting for the Galaxy.
Listen, especially this is a Philadelphia Union podcast. There's no way we're rooting for LAFC. No way. So I'm in on the Galaxy.
Because they are the reason we don't have the one part where we should have won.
No way.
Galaxy over LAFC. I'm with.
Oh, you don't want to go with Inter Miami, who just set records for points and goals and all these other things with their run to the Supporter Shield and
I had enough of them.
All the excitement around them.
Well, guys, I don't know if you saw this week, but my man, one of my favorite artists, Bad Bunny, does a collab with Messi.
I saw that. I thought about you. I should have texted you.
Are you guys kidding me with this?
How does that make you feel?
Oh, I'm in pain. You know, I love Bad
I'm
Bunny.
becoming a Ronaldo fan at this point. I'm so over Messi.
Dude, it's my God. It is so rough, but
I don't even know what has us down bad the most.
Oh my God,
the own goal. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say that out loud?
The microcosm. Well, let's get into it because I'm sure everyone's gonna keep dropping the comments. So we'll get to those as the live episode goes on. But let's start off by talking about this match. This is why we're all so pissed off today and dropping a lot of comments. Saturday night, Philadelphia Union, FC Cincinnati on decision day. The Union start off. Let's go over with those lineups. First off, pretty much the usual. We'll talk about the controversial one. But Blake in goal, Wagner, Elliott, Glesnes, Harry, your back line. Flock at the 6, your 2 shuttlers, McGlynn at the left, Quinn at the right. Gazak at the tip, Ua and Baribo as your 2 forwards. And we were pretty high to start off this match because in the second minute, Quinn Sullivan with, by the way, nice shot. That was a tough angle.
Beautiful shot.
Beautiful shot. Union go up early, 1-0. Now, depending on who you ask, probably the momentum shifter in this one comes early in the first half. Around the 10-minute mark, Daniel Gazak injures himself. You see Paul rushing attending to him on the field, and then a couple minutes later, he gets subbed out. So that's a big one, right? Like that's your leading goal scorer. That's the heart and beat of your attack. And boom, he's out 15 minutes into the match. You got to sub Daniel Jean-Jacques in the match. And you can clearly tell that was a momentum shifter. FC Cincinnati had a bevel of opportunities to get a goal. But in the 4th minute of injury time, Assad from his wing back spot gets the goal. And then the start of the second half, Renee.
Dun, dun, dun.
The nail in the coffin. And
less than a minute.
Ironically enough, all-star for FC Cincinnati center back Jakob Glesnes gets the own goal. It's obviously, listen, we're going to bring it up. The fact that this season in San Jose, Costa Rica, started off with an own goal by Jakob Glesnes, and it ends in Chester, Pennsylvania with an own goal by Jakob Glesnes. And I hate to kill Jakob because you can
kill him.
It's a rough season for a lot of people on this team, right? And we're obviously going to dive deep into Jakob and in this back line and all these players on this club. But the fact is, the season starts terribly with an own goal by Jakob Glesnes and ends with an own goal by Jakob Glesnes on decision day. Guys, like, this script couldn't be written perfectly for the Philadelphia Union haters. Like, this is the way our season ends. Like that. And I think Todd on Twitter, dear friend of the show, Todd Lewis, the Free Kick Podcast, put it perfectly. Like, that own goal exemplifies this season. Just bad luck, bad misfortunes, maybe like 40 to 50% our fault as well. And we're talking about the Union missing the playoffs for the first time since 2007, since I started dating my wife.
I know. You're a whole married man now.
My whole relationship with my wife, we've been dealing with good Union soccer, and now we have to deal with no playoffs. And that's where we're at, guys.
That's wild when you put it in perspective.
A lot has blossomed in that time.
A lot has blossomed. Love is all in the air. Put a ring on it and everything.
Except for the Union.
February 20th, 2024 is when it all began. As we saw that own goal by Jakob Glesnes. And the Union did win that first leg, 3-2 despite that own goal. And then you fast forward to October 20th. Wait a minute. Wasn't the 20th on Saturday?
The
Saturday was the 19th.
I don't know what day it is, clearly.
My God, and exactly.
Exactly.
Oh,
That's
God,
actually kind of weird.
suck.
That's actually kind of weird. Almost exactly months later, 8 months later, that you have Jakob Glesnes putting the nail in the coffin on the season. It just, in typical Philly sports fashion, it wouldn't be any other way. I always say, and this is one of the things I stand by, I hate losing more than anything. But why is it that it can't be an exciting down to the wire loss of like both teams play well and the Philly team loses? Why is it that when Philly sports teams lose, they lose bad? They lose embarrassingly. And this is another example. Like, granted, they created a lot of chances, but you went from the excitement of Quinn Sullivan's goal in the opening 2 minutes to then a full swing of you gave up a stoppage time goal and you scored on yourself in the first minute, second half. So in a span of about, in game time, what is that, 4 or 5 minutes in between? You went from being up 1-0 and then you swung in a 5-minute span to be down 2-1, and the game-winning goal is off of the foot of your center back, passing it around your keeper. Not a deflection, not a hard fault. I'm clearing the ball out and I accidentally it hits off me wrong and goes in goal. A full-on Jack McGlynn blocks the first one. The deflection bounces back, a slow roller to Jakob Glesnes, and he physically just passes it right in the goal. Here you go. Here you go, FC Cincinnati. Go win the game. This team has had so many games this season. So many games when you look back over this season. They were up first. They scored a goal or two. Then it swung and they gave up 1 goal, 2 goals. The tie to Austin 2-2. Remember the games early on that they had. It was a crazy, crazy season of squandering leads. The 3-2 loss to Seattle. The 2-2 tie to DC United. The 4-2 game. The 4-3 game against Cincinnati. So many games where the Union in the late parts gave up Montreal. 4-2 loss. Wasn't that a 2? They were up at one point in that game. This was back in June.
Yeah.
They were up 2-1 and ended up giving up 3 consecutive goals. Mm-hmm. When you look at this season, it was so many times of games where the offense actually was scoring. Mm-hmm. If you're scoring a goal or two, you're on average, you're not getting shut out. You're on average scoring a goal or two. Mathematically, you should be winning more games. But instead, it's your own self-inflicted errors that are causing you to literally give away leads. And so many times, it's goals that you're giving up, not one. You're giving up 2 or 3 goals in like a 5-minute span. How?
I mean, like I said, it's a microcosm of different things, but like what's super telling is if you guys actually look at the standings in the Eastern Conference and the way it ended. Yeah. So from 8 to 15, everyone finished the season with a minus in the goal differential, except the Philadelphia Union had a +7.
Pretty absurd.
And you look, you mentioned some of those matches. A lot of the matches that the Union did lose, it was by 1 goal was the difference there. So, like, in these dying moments, the Union could not, and they've been clutch in years past, but they could not find a way to finish these matches. And that's a big difference. The amount you probably,
Painful.
if you look at it, they probably dropped a total of 10 points, which would have put you around 7th in the Eastern Conference, around Red Bull, right below NYCFC.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean,
That's the thing. One of the best goal differential. Go ahead, Andrew.
yeah, I mean, without a doubt. I mean, so many drop games this year. And, you know, like you guys are saying, if you had won 2 or 3 of them, you were in contention for the playoffs. You were
Exactly.
right there, you know, and it's poetic almost that you go out the same way that you came in. And, you know, it is a microcosm of like what this season was. And it's just that there were so many squandered opportunities that were there for you. You had all of the power going into these final matches of the season to write something, to write your own name, to put yourself in the mix. All you had to do was win. And obviously the decision day, you know, you needed a couple things to help you out. But essentially, you had all the power to make the right decisions, to get yourself into a spot. And you do the exact same thing you did all season long. And I know we'll probably get into it more, but I'm happy it ended the way that it did, because it rips the Band-Aid off. It allows us to look at this team for what it is, and that is that this team is not ready to compete in these cup games. They're not ready for the playoffs.
No.
And why go through another week of us ripping our hair out, biting our nails down to the bed,
Having hope.
and getting destroyed by Inter Miami, you know, who we would have played, and sitting here like we are right now. At least now we get it over with. We're here. We can talk about what's going on, and hopefully the team can have some perspective and look inward on themselves and say, hey, you know, from the players to the coaches to the front office, we need to do something about this team.
Yeah.
Or we are going to fall hard.
And that's why I brought it up last week. Like, do the Union deserve to make the playoffs? And one of my arguments was, like, if they do make the playoffs, this front office is going to rub it in everyone's face.
Yeah.
Oh, we made the playoffs again. This is success, right?
Gives them an excuse.
But we all saw it. Like, we all saw this. Like, this team was not good enough here. And Mike Thomas brings up a good point. Like, he talked about Julian Carranza bailing us out in a Saprissa match. Julian Carranza and Bruno Martinez, those type of players were big in a lot of these type of matches that we're talking about, losing by at least a goal there. And they never play. I mean,
There was no plan to replace them.
but was there, like, listen, Carranza and El Brujo for the past 2 seasons have constantly been linked to rumors of leaving Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And so there had to be in the back of your head. At some point, you had to plan for it. The lack of preparation for these last couple seasons, it's astonishing. Like, the fact that you're planned for health or with a congested schedule is to hope that everyone stays healthy. That's embarrassing.
Embarrassing.
You sit there and say that. But
And I hope that you could have Union 2 players that can step up and be called up to help. And it's no knock on the Union 2 players, but you should not be expecting those young kids to be the replacements for the MLS level of talent when you have the international break, when you do have injuries. There was never a plan in place this entire season. It was extremely frustrating because, to your point, JP, all the rumors we've heard over the years, from Kai Wagner to Daniel Gazdag to Julian Carranza to Jose Martinez to all the way through, of guys that potentially would not be coming back to this team. And yes, they did bring in like a Sam Adeniran, and they brought in Danley Jean-Jacques, and we got Ty Baribo, which in itself is frustrating to me, that it took Julian Carranza leaving to actually learn what we knew was that Ty Baribo's a fantastic player and someone that you can't even take off the field at this point. So to see all the different things that have played out, I agree. I know we talked about it prior to the Cincinnati game. Is it worth it for them to get in the playoffs for that experience, or is that experience going to be misleading and give them a reason to justify continuing to run it back with the same roster? Instead, they have to have that hard look, that harsh reality, looking in the mirror. So there's a lot to talk about there. But first, let's take care of some business here, because
let's do it.
This conversation in itself is one that can take many, many hours. But let's take care of some business. Let's tell you about some of our friends and our sponsors here as we are talking through here on PHLY Union podcast. So, you don't have to wipe.
Wipe.
Oh.
Wipe.
There
Wipe
it
it down.
is. So let me tell you about our friends over at Rite Aid. As this fall season, you can make sure you're prepared for the big moments, because listen, Don't wait until it's too late to then have the shoulda, coulda, wouldas of what you could have done to be proactive. Learn from the mistakes of others. Take advantage of opportunities. And over at Rite Aid, you can be proactive in getting your flu shot. This season, as we're looking at the holidays alone, I already started my Thanksgiving planning, Friendsgiving planning, Halloween, Christmas, and the December holidays are around the corner before you know it, which is crazy to think about as we're in the final full week of October. Sad. But that also means it's fall festival season. You're out at farms, you're picking pumpkins, you're enjoying your delicious apple cider and pumpkin spiced everything. So you want to make sure you don't miss the big game. All the sports are playing right now. We've got the overlap. It's baseball playoffs, soccer playoffs, but you can still enjoy the NBA, the NFL, college sports. And with Rite Aid, they have the flu shot vaccine that you can get available there, as well as any other vaccine, because the CDC does recommend getting a flu shot every year. They say that as a person's immune system evolves, as well as the flu strands change, you want to make sure you're protecting yourself each and every year with your annual flu shot. It also helps, according to the CDC, to minimize children's chances of getting a life-threatening if you don't get the vaccine. So by getting the vaccine, it decreases their chances by 75%. So it increases their chances. If you don't get the vaccine, decreases by 75% if you do. Also, over at Rite Aid, they just make it convenient. I always go to get my vaccines from Rite Aid because I think it's so much quicker than waiting for a doctor's appointment. I can just walk right in, and you too can walk right in. So you can walk right into your local Rite Aid, or you can, of course, schedule online at riteaid.com. State age and health restrictions do apply, but ask your local Rite Aid pharmacist for more details. If you have questions, if you're unsure about when you should get a vaccine, what age your kid should be, anything else they can help you with, vaccines around the flu, COVID-19, and much more. Plus, while at Rite Aid, you can, of course, stock up, like I did, on those over-the-counter cold and flu medications, allergy essentials, and much more with our friends over at Rite Aid. Check them out today.
I love it. I love it. All right, let's talk about our friends real quick over at TrueMark Financial. And listen, I wonder if the Philadelphia Union have been using TrueMark Financial with their finances, because TrueMark Financial these days are helping us save our money, which, as we all know, something that goes on quite a bit over in Chester. But listen, right now with TrueMark Financial, our finances 2024 is our top priority. All right, and right now, they are doing such a great thing with their TrueMark Financial's debit card. You can earn rewards points. That's right, rewards points. Every time you select credit instead of debit at checkout, you will earn Credit Union rewards points. And as points adds up, you can redeem them for cash, travel, or retail gift cards, merchandise, and much, much more. My favorite feature right now going on with all their money management tools over at TrueMark Financial is the Savvy Money feature, right? You can track your credit score, and of course, when that credit score gets too low, they will let you know and give you some tips of some better finance tips there. Because listen, you want to make sure your credit score is at the right spot. Because listen, you want to get that house, you want to get that car, you need to make sure you have that right credit score. So Savvy Money helps you with that as well. TrueMark Financial is federally insured by the NCUA and is an equal opportunity lender. If you would like some more information, one of two things. You can either visit TrueMark.com/PHLY. That's TrueMark.com/PHLY, or there's 24 branches in the Philadelphia area. You can walk in and get any information you may need and start your credit union career right then and there. So work on your finances here with our friends over at TrueMark Financial. All right.
TrueMark Financial.
Frazier, wait, did you know about Frazier and his many talents?
Yes. Yes,
Dude.
Mr. Theater and Broadway.
Yeah.
Literally,
Time comes out.
He's done it all. Quite
Just
literally.
Casual flex on us here.
I love
and
it.
on the chat, I was on Broadway, basically. Next major star.
Yeah, I wish.
All right, let's continue here with this discussion of the Philadelphia Union and a rough end of the season. Mike brought a good point too, and some of the issues here with this club. Look, listen, one of the problems on Saturday and the latter part of the season was the fact that Jim, when he needed to make a substitution, it's not like that he didn't want to, but it's like, who the heck do you put out there, right? Like Daniel Gazak goes down, and that was obviously a crucial part of the match on Saturday. Once he goes down, you can feel the momentum shift.
Sure.
Who the heck do you put in for Gazdak? Like, I always talk about 2022 because you literally had options in every single position. Like Paxton Aronson was such a great substitute for Daniel Gazak because Paxton was more of your traditional number 10 that we always talk about, whereas Gazak is going to create for himself. But like you don't have like a different facet coming off the bench and creating something dynamic for the squad. And so you have to go to Danley Jean-Jacques in that substitution there. So like these are all things that are a problem. And obviously, like, look, Julian Carranza leaves in the summer.
Yep.
Jose Brujo Martinez leaves in the summer.
Yep.
You replace him with Sam Adeniran and you replace him with Danley Jean-Jacques. The problem is, guys, the summer transfer period around the world, that's where you do your most damage.
Time.
But in this league, the summer transfer window is essentially like your deadline. It's like your MLB, NBA, NHL trade deadline.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're just getting pieces that will rentals. You're getting pieces that will supplement you for the rest of the season.
Correct.
And so like you can't really do your damage. Ty Barribo, a summer transfer. He really made his effect the following year.
Well, that's not his fault.
Well, that too.
Because he should have been out there sooner.
Yes, for sure. But in general, your summer transfers are guys that are just there to supplement just needs at the moment. They're not there to really make an impact at that time.
And that's the reality. For this team that have only needed one win, and I know it was mentioned earlier by John Peace, they just needed to win one game and you go winless in your Final Four. Very reminiscent of last year's stretch of ties to close out the regular season. To me, that is a big result of not having the depth. Having guys that hit a wall, having guys that are, the playbook is out. And I know it was mentioned in the chat from Michael Wolfinger about guys like Jakob Glesnes and Jack Elliott. Yeah, they're good players still, but the playbook is out on them because they've been out there too long. And I always say changing your personnel is not just about upgrading the talent. It's also about changing the look, being a bit more unpredictable. When you're running it back with the same roster year after year, first of all, the team gets into this complacency because if you're somebody like Jack Elliott, you know you're going to start. You're Jakob Glesnes, you know you're going to be out there. There's no competition. There's no fire.
Jim
but then on the
brought that
other
up, too,
side,
on Saturday.
Exactly, the fire's missing. But then also for opponents, they know how to get around the Union. They know how to manage them. They don't even need to. You've seen these guys year after year after year. So this roster with the running it back mentality got exposed, as we know, but no surprise. But also the lack of depth got exposed because in a must-win game, you should have better options coming off the bench. When you have a player go down, does it suck that Daniel Gazdag couldn't keep going? I was like, please keep playing. Yes, but you need to have an option because realistically, anybody could go down at any moment. When Andre Blake went down this season, it was Oliver Zemla thrown into a position, Andrew Rick thrown into positions they weren't ready for. And they didn't have any answers, realistically. When you lose a center back, now without Damian Lowe, you lose a center back, the answer is not to slot Nate Harrell into center back. Like, these aren't real. It's the Band-Aid. You're putting lipstick on a pig. Like, you're expecting it to really magically, we're just going to work hard and we're going to always have the Union 2. And I know you guys are saying in the chat, like, no knock on the Union 2, but that's getting old also.
Yeah.
The answer is not to bring up the young players. They're not ready yet. And why not go get in the international summer transfer window a player? I know Pogba was brought up. There are so many names out there of guys, I know, that are established, that have shown they can play at this level and that are available that the Union could have got. But instead, and I like Sam and Danley and I think they're fine pieces, but they're role player pieces. You need to raise the level of the talent. You need to raise the level of your starting 11 and your bench to be Ali Bedoya, who's aging and out the door in terms of retirement, basically. A young Danley, a young Kevin, Sam. You don't truly have a true core of 13, 14, 15 guys that are battling for that starting 11. So they got exposed when you look at the fact that in a big moment, the Union yet again did not have the pieces to step up. That's 4 consecutive games that they only needed to win one. And you give up an own goal. You tie Atlanta and let 2 points slide. Like, these are the things that are unacceptable. And down the stretch, this team is not built to handle big pressure moments. That's why they don't have any hardware. That's why they get to third place or they make deep runs into every international competition and fall short.
Yeah, here's your bench on Saturday. Mbaizo, Raffaello, Bedoya, Bueno, Donovan, Adeniran, Rick, Kevin Sullivan, and Jean-Jacques. That was your bench.
That's your bench.
Yeah, it's
in a
almost
must-win
like
game.
It's almost like a potpourri of people. You know, it's like a mix of all these. Like, oh, we're just gonna get these guys and we'll try to figure it out. There's no complementary pieces. There's no one that builds off each other. It's just strangers, just strangers in the night, pretty much. You know, that's what it is. And if they want to have the hardware, like you're saying, Renee, they're gonna have to really look inward and figure out, you know, how can we find replacements for these guys that we have that we want to keep, you know? How can we change up our defense? How can we change up our attack?
Yeah.
Can we stop doing the same formation every single time? The script is out there. Teams know what we do. They know the formation that we're always going to play in every single time. And that's something that falls on Jim. And Jim being okay with trying new things out, experimenting. This is the time, to be in all honesty, this is the time for him to experiment with what you got and not just go back to your same old comforts time and time again. Try out different things. Try out new guys in different positions. Find new guys that are gonna help you out. Stop always picking from the youth. Find guys that are out there for cheap that can come in here and really make an impact. There are people out there. There are players who are willing to find a home that will come here and will support this team. And it's just getting tiring time and time again that we've seen the last 3 years. The same thing over and over. And what do they say? You know, insanity is when you continuously do the same thing time and time again. And we are getting to that point where things are insane.
And that's the thing that's the most frustrating about this group. And I think Ty Baribo is a great example of that. For Ty Baribo to be a player that we were all on the show calling for, where is Ty Baribo? Why aren't we seeing him more? Why isn't he playing? And this is where I do fault Jim. Because for every coach, it is your job to bring out the best of players. It is your job to evaluate your talent. And there's been so many times that we've heard him say, well, guys are, you know, Quinn Sullivan, Ty Baribo, Jeremy Raffanello. You can go back over previous seasons and there are other names that come to mind. Yeah, they're working hard in practice. They're getting closer. They're not really ready. Ty Baribo comes out, has a tremendous, rattles off 7 goals in a quick span and shows you that he's someone that absolutely should have been, honestly, a starter, if not even a strong player off the bench. And it took Julian Carranza leaving for us to finally get Ty Baribo major minutes, and that should not be the case. There are players that are practice players. There are players that are typically more gamers. I'm sure Ty Baribo is more of a gamer and have had him on this team and you never got to see him play. We talked about the Leon Flox, Jesus Bueno. Do I think that these are going to be guys that are going to come in and drastically make an impact? No, but we don't know that because in the opportunities you have a chance. You know, when it's every once in a while, like just give a player an opportunity. I'm not the type that believes, and even as a player I was this way, like you don't earn your minutes in games. But we do need to see you in games. Like, there's a weird balance. So if it's a score where, depending on what the game is, you have an opportunity, the result's kind of at hand, to get somebody else some minutes, give them 5 minutes, give them 10 minutes if you can. And I do think not only in terms of playing time did Jim drop the ball, but as you mentioned, Andrew, tactically, this team was so predictable with their 4-4-2. Sometimes every once in a while, they'd sprinkle in a 4-3-3. But the actual way they were playing, the offense actually got better. It was on now the defensive side where there was never an adjustment. Yeah. It was just, we've been watching film and we're going to work on minimizing mistakes. Okay, you just gave up an own goal to end your season. So are you really working on minimizing mistakes? What are you actually doing tactically to work on how your team is defending? Because their offense actually got it. Their offense actually scored goals. They were one of the best scoring offenses in the league. But you also were one of the worst giving up, conceding goals.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot that we're going to break down as this all season comes about, maybe like changing different philosophies and whatnot. But, a couple more points here on this match. What I'm going to say won't change the result of Saturday, but it is interesting in the mindset. In a very big, probably the biggest match of the season, Jim decided to go with Leon Flock at the 6 instead of his impact signing of the summer.
Yeah.
And Danley Jean-Jacques, and we've heard all this, all these raving reviews about Danley Jean-Jacques. And so, it's just a little bit surprising that in that situation, no disrespect on Leon Flock, but, Danley was brought here to be the replacement for Bruchel. and we went with Leon over Danley. Like, it's just
Yeah.
like those like little things. And obviously Danley got into the match the 15 minutes in, but it's the mindset.
I was going to say, is that just a comfort that he's falling on and he knows because he's had Leon
the Union
there?
way, man.
Or is it like just a bad evaluation of talent?
That's what I'm wondering, to be honest.
Because like if you brought this guy in to do that, you know, be that big impact piece,
I hear you.
You should be using him in these moments. And if you're not, there's a disconnect somewhere that is like, why isn't he in that position? Did he not perform well enough? Or did he not show enough to the team that he should be in that spot?
Yeah.
Or was it just Jim being Jim and like, oh, I'm comfortable with Leon there,
Yes.
you know, and I have seen him do it before. This is why I'm going to this.
And it kind of felt that same way with like a Nate Harriel. Like, this is not the first time we've seen this. Nate Harriel, it took a little bit longer than it should have to get him slotted in as that everyday outside back. So I do feel like again, I like Jim Curtin as a coach, and I'm not saying go fire him, but there are some questions I have around his evaluation of players because it seems like it takes too long to go ahead and move someone up the depth chart into a bigger role.
Oh,
Danley's
guys.
one of them, Ty's one of them, Nate Harrell's another one.
It stems from the mindset and the philosophy that this club has from the front office all the way down to the coaches. They love familiarity. They love guys who know the Union way. And in that situation on Saturday, it's because Leon Flock has been here since 21, and they know what Leon Flock is going to do. They don't know what Danley, if you start Danley in a decision day match where it's you win, you possibly go to playoffs, you lose, you miss out. They didn't want to go with the wild card in Danley, even though, listen, wild cards.
He shouldn't have been a wild card at this point.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
That's the other issue. It should have. You had time this season to make him more, to figure out more of what you're going to get from Danley.
And tactically, how many times has Cincinnati seen Danley? You know, maybe it was that wild card that you needed to help you, take that extra step against this team. Familiarity is constant, like you were saying. For the last 3 years, it's been the same team. You know, so something different out there could have helped you budge a little bit more. You know, that could have gotten you another goal. That could have helped you win that game. You know, and.
Yep.
You just decide to fall back.
Well, familiarity is why we also have the homegrown conversation that we need to get to after we handle some more business, JP.
That is right, Renee. Because you know what, Renee, after all this talk about the mess that is the Philadelphia Union right now, I think it's a good time to sit back, relax, and crack open that can of Coors Light, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to talk about our friends over at Coors Light because, look, listen, the Union season may be over, but we still have the MLS Cup playoffs. And yes, I'm still going to watch because I want to know what the Union need to do to get back to this spot, right? And so tonight I'll be watching a little Montreal and Atlanta, and I'll have my nice cold Coors Light because listen, especially like on a weeknight, on a school night, I still want like a nice little adult beverage, but I don't want to go too crazy. And Coors Light, it provides that light, refreshing taste that I'm just craving on a Tuesday night. And of course, when the mountains turn blue, it's as cold as the Rockies. And Coors Light is cold lagered, cold filtered, and cold packaged for a much smoother finish. And when you embrace that chill mindset, it's a good time to choose chill and crack open a Coors Light. Coors Light is a mountain cold refreshment, crisp and refreshing as the Colorado Rockies. And right now, ladies and gentlemen, if you go over to CoorsLight.com/PHLY soccer, that's CoorsLight.com/PHLY soccer, you can get it delivered straight to your home with our friends over at Instacart. That's awesome, guys. We don't have to go to the beer store anymore. We can get delivered right to our front step. I don't see anything better than that. Make sure you guys are celebrating responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. A big shout out and a thank you to our friends over at Coors Light.
Yeah, and while we're talking about ways you can make some meaningful changes in how you're getting your beverages, let's talk about how you can also make meaningful changes in how you're taking care of your body. Let's say you have joints aching, you're dealing with hand cramping, back pains, you need to get some physical therapy, whatever it may be, Rothman Orthopedic has you covered. I myself have gone to Rothman over the years when I was playing soccer, dealing with some knee injuries and personal injuries myself. And at Rothman Orthopedics, they are specialized in a number of areas. They've got the care and the consistency for over 50 years of providing coverage to all of their patients and giving you what their mission says, high quality, compassionate, and affordable care that's rooted in research. And over at Rothman Orthopedic, they also use their research to figure out the best new treatments that can work for you to create better outcomes. They want to make sure you're able to stay healthy and don't have to come back for more treatment or physical therapy. And each Rothman orthopedic doctor is specialized in their own area. Their physicians work in areas that cover such a wide range of possible injuries. It's physical medicine and rehabilitation, sports medicine, hand and wrist, foot and ankle, shoulder and elbow, hip, knee, spine, and like I said last episode, head, shoulders, knees, and toes. Whatever you've got going on physically, if you're looking for orthopedic oncology, trauma and fracture care, or any sort of rehabilitation, all of that can be done with Rothman Orthopedic, who has been serving our communities since 1970 and have had over 200 plus fellowship trained physicians that have been providing their patients with great care. So proudly serving dozens of communities across Pennsylvania and New Jersey with 30 plus convenient offices, urgent cares, and walk-in centers. So if you're ever looking for any support, even if you need orthotics and braces, bracing, MRIs, x-rays, physical therapy, and much more, all of that can be done with Rothman Orthopedics. So Rothman Orthopedics, specialized in orthopedics and you. And you can visit rothmanortho.com/PHLY to learn more and to make an appointment today.
I love it. Well, guys, we have some breaking news.
Oh?
Whoa.
No, we do not.
We have some breaking news.
Breaking news.
Right now, we have some Champions League action. The America's best player right now scored a 33rd minute Olympico against Club Brugge. Milan's up 1-0 right now. This is a nice goal. You guys might want to check it out. It's really cool.
Right now,
Christian
I'm against.
Pulisic
Right now, I'm
scored a
against
goal
them.
in the correct goal, not an own goal, like we see with the Union.
Right now, I'm
That
against
is
him.
right.
You're texting him? What'd you say?
No, I'm not texting him. I said I'm against him.
Oh, I was like,
Yeah, right here, Liverpool. We're in the Champions League, and we already beat
I get
AC
it.
Milan.
I get it. All right, well, let's get back to the discussion on the Union, Renee. And before our ad break, we were talking about the homegrown. So let's talk about those homegrowns because, Renee, after the match on Saturday, we got a little spicy. From, I didn't expect them. Well, maybe, but I didn't expect them to have a spicy moment. Kai Wagner got spicy after the match. So we have an actual...
Spill the tea.
I'm going to spill this tea here, guys. This is interesting. So these are the comments from Kai Wagner after the match. So he goes, I love all our homegrowns. Not a great way to start. But you don't win games in this league with just homegrowns. And I think we have to get back to winning, go back to getting winning players who have the mentality to win every game. I saw too many players today in the locker room who really probably don't care that we get out of the playoffs. That's something that really pisses me off. When you see players who don't care and just go home now and think, okay, nice, I have a vacation in front of me. I'm not a player like this. This will stay a lot with me. The 2022 MLS Cup stayed with me a lot. A couple of weeks, so I think that's even worse today. Probably to not make the playoffs. Obviously, we're giving the direct quote there from Kai Wagner, but yeah, Renee, calling out the homegrowns? So I'm assuming Quinn is involved in this conversation.
Yeah.
Jack McGlynn.
Yeah.
Nathan Harriel.
Maybe Jeremy Raffanello.
Poor Kevin Sullivan,
definitely.
He's the public relations story of the year. That was insane. He's not really wrong either.
No, he's not wrong at all.
It's not wrong at all.
I mean,
actually.
what do they have? What example do they have to go off of?
Okay, so playing devil's advocate here, because I do actually agree with Kai Wagner. You had a Quinn Sullivan season where he had 5 goals, 11 assists. And you had Jack McGlynn scored some nice goals. Nate Harriel had a couple goals. And they also did lock-in roles as starters, as everyday players. They took major steps forward this season. And also, when you look at the last 4 games, those 4 winless games that the Union had to close out their season, it was the 1-1 tie to Atlanta. Nate Harriel scored in that game. It was a 2-1 loss to Orlando. Quinn Sullivan scored in that game. A 3-2 loss to the Columbus Crew. Nate and Jack McGlynn scored in that game. And of course, Quinn Sullivan scored in the final game against Cincinnati in the 2-1 loss. So even though they lost those last 4 games, your offense really was coming from your homegrowns. That's all homegrown goals. The games prior, you had more of a mixture. It was Ty Baribo, it was Ua, it was Daniel Gazdag. So it's hard because the homegrowns are producing. But what really stands out to me about Kai Wagner's comments, it's not a talent thing. He didn't say we need to get more experienced players. We need to get more talented players. He said we need to go get more winning players.
It's a mentality.
Winning players.
Sure.
So it's not a talent issue with these homegrowns. And this is the problem. The young players, and I remember LeBron James had the same issue with Kyrie Irving. Like, you can look back over the years. Veterans often had this issue with young players that are just out there like, oh, this is so exciting. I'm a pro and I just want to party and I want to just be out at, this vacation or that party or spending my money on this. Whereas as a veteran, especially once you're getting towards the declining part of your career, you understand the value of every game, every opportunity, potential to win championships, because you know it's not easy to do and it's fleeting. So you're like trying to grab onto it more and enjoy it and make the most of it. So it's a common thing. But to the winning part, that's not as common, because usually you will have those young players that, to be honest, they give you the energy. They're like the puppy. Yeah. And then you got the old dog. Yeah. The puppy's the one that's all like hyper. But at the end of the day, they usually want to win too. Yeah. So to hear that in the locker room, there are young players that are clearly, as he says, homegrowns. That means these are some of these guys that don't really care about winning as much. Like, it's not as important to them. Now they're so focused on vacation. It actually made sense. Like, as soon as he said it, I was like, yeah. Yeah. Not only are you right, but it actually makes sense. Why does this team keep falling short? Why do they keep having these, oops, we scored on ourselves. Oops, we gave up 2 goals in the last 5 minutes. Oops, we gave up 3 goals in the last 20 minutes. Because you don't really have the heart and the passion. And I don't think it's just homegrowns, though. Where does that start? Somebody said earlier that there's no leadership. Yeah. It's up to your veterans to literally lock in those young players. Because young players are going to be young and stupid. Young people in general are. Sorry, young people. It's up to your veterans to lead them. No, we don't do that here. We just lost. Put your phone away. Stop talking about that vacation. Our season's over. I don't need you crying, but I need you to care. Yeah. So they don't have that voice. But how do you have that voice when you have on one side the homegrowns that clearly don't have the quote unquote winning mentality, but on the other side, your veterans, who are they? Jakob Glesnes, who scored on you? Jack Elliott, who's been seeming a little bit frazzled. Andre Blake, who's been dealing with injuries. Ali Bedoya, who's 3 feet out the door. Yep. You don't have any veterans that are truly locked in. Even the veterans, let's be honest, the veterans are over it. Who cares? Kai Wagner and Daniel Gazdag are probably like the Ty Baribo. They're probably the ones that actually do care. I think you have the young and the old that are like over it. I'm just here. Just here so I don't get fined.
I 100% agree with you. And it all boils down to culture setting. Yes. And I believe that locker room doesn't have a winning mindset culture. There are a lot of young guys in there, like you were saying, Renee, who I think are intoxicated by the power of the jersey or kit in this matter. And they're not winning. They're not wanting to. They're so overwhelmed with all of that and like what that I can obtain from, because I'm a pro player in the MLS and all of this stuff, that they don't have that winning culture. And it really does boil down to what you just said. Mm-hmm. What veterans are there? Who's there? Obviously Kai is there because, if he's coming out saying these things, clearly he means it, and but at that point, to him to not defend him, but he should also, if that's the case, if that's how he feels, don't say it to the media.
I agree.
Say it to your team.
That's spot on.
Yeah.
Put these guys to the side in the locker room, huddle them up, and say,
now's not the time.
What are you doing? Mm-hmm. If you want to win, now we got to do it. Don't be worrying about vacation. Don't be worrying about going off and seeing XYZ or playing golf or whatever you do, video games or your phone. It's time to win. And that falls on him. If he wants that culture, he needs to be the leader of that culture.
Yeah, he's not wrong, but like what you just said, has that conversation even come up? Not even with Kai, with the young, but like any of the veteran players.
I don't think they care.
Like, have they ever had these type of discussions with them? Yeah, and like this team, obviously, look, this is the way they wanted to build it, right? They wanted those homegrowns to be an integral part about it, and they want to find those diamonds in the rough to kind of fill it up. But it's funny because when we were winning, like in 2022, you had veteran players, right, with the quote unquote winning mentality, but they were all dogs. They all had that dog mentality.
Yeah.
Like I think like the best example, like I with talking about this, I have to go to the NBA. So like a team like the Washington Wizards, right? You got like Kyle Kuzma, you got like Jordan Poole. Those guys are stat padding every night. They don't care. They they'll put up their 20.
They
whatever,
literally could care less. It's not about a championship.
Go grab a drink after, right?
It's a social thing. It's
But then you have like the Miami Heat. You know, Jimmy Butler, you think he's going to allow anyone to celebrate the fact that they missed the playoffs? Jimmy's going to get on your butt, right? And so like that, I completely understand what he's saying there.
Watch your wording there. Say all in your butt.
Get on your, well, I mean, I wanted to say get on your A, but we can't curse anymore. So I had to say butt.
Oh,
he's going to get on your booty.
It sounds so different when
He's
you
going to
don't
get on your
curse.
behind. Because you cannot be happy after you missed the playoffs. We play to win these games. And I commend Kai Wagner for coming out and calling it out, because sometimes that was what they probably do need. And like, you know, another point too is like Quinn, Jack, like all these homegrowns, they've been handed roses, right? Like, oh my God, good job on that. Great season, great game. They only get compliments. Like they never get called out for anything. So maybe this is something that they may have needed. But I think the bigger issue, obviously, like you guys talked about, is just that the type of players that we're bringing, or the lack of players that we are bringing in. And that would definitely help out with the culture in the dressing room.
And to your points, it's not, I don't think I'm going to just put it on the traditional homegrowns, because as Kai Wagner was mentioning, like there's too many players today in the locker room who probably don't care that we get out of playoffs. And that pisses me off when you see players who like don't care, just go home now and think, okay, nice, I have a vacation in front of me. That's not just homegrowns. To be honest.
That's everybody.
That's everyone.
That's everyone in the locker room.
That's everyone. Now, did he actually call out the homegrowns? Yes, but I also think it's exactly as we've all been discussing. It's not even a knock on Quinn, Jack, Nate, Kevin, you guys aren't good enough. It's a knock on, as we all know, you cannot just build your team hoping that these 19 or 14-year-olds are going to be able to help your team win playoff games. Hardware. You need to bring in some experience. You need to bring in the winning culture of guys that know how to win. It's not even just like guys that are experienced. It's the guys that know how to manage a season, know how to manage the travel, know how to manage the playoffs, know how to manage the pressure. Those are winning mentalities. These young players don't have that because they are still so young. Yeah. But it's not just about them. When you see that there are players in the locker room that he's calling out that don't care and just ready to go home and ready to go on vacation, that's everybody. Yeah. And I do feel like that is the case, because when you look through this roster, who do you honestly feel like shows in their play they actually care, they actually want to be out there consistently? Even when that goal happened, the own goal by Jakob Glesnes, and I know I keep bringing this up, but I can't unsee it. Like, look at the reactions of everybody. What would you do in that moment?
Oh, anger.
1 minute in, I'd be pissed off, but I also think I'd rally everybody. You just gave up a goal in stoppage time.
Yeah.
Then you give up another goal that you score on yourselves a minute in, a must-win game. I'm rallying the troops. I'm bringing everyone together. We're going to take a moment. We're going to huddle up. We're going to say that's effing sucked, but we're going to pick this up. And that's not going to be how we lose this season. We're not going to let that be the way that our season comes to an end. We've got the rest of this half. Let it go. Move on. Tie this game up, and let's win this game.
We're at home.
Like
year.
there's no way these guys should have the amount of mistakes that they've had. That's why they've given up. So I'm going to go back at some. I won't actually do this. But mentally, I wish I had the care to do it myself. To actually go back and track how many times they gave up multiple goals in like a 5-minute span, where the game would flip and it goes from being you're up 1-0, now you're down 2-1. They had so many times they gave up 2 goals back to back in like 5-6 minutes. Why? You don't have leaders. 1 goal is one thing. You're going to give up goals. But to give up that second goal or third goal, lack of leadership.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's bigger than talent. It's bigger than youth. They don't have people that care, that want to win. I guess, listen, everybody wants to win, but how far are you willing to go to win? They don't have those guys, in my opinion. And I think it's the reality. This roster needs to change.
Yeah, no, I agree. We got to send these dudes to dog camp.
Nah.
We need some dogs.
Hungry dogs run faster.
Seriously.
Nicholas is saying in the chat that Blake deserves some blame for how this culture has become. He's been there the longest. And I don't think it's a tenure thing.
I can't really blame. I mean, like, the thing is, too, is like, Ali obviously has to relegate. He's like not the full-time captain anymore, right? So who is it then? Obviously, you're pointing at Andre Blake. Andre Blake missed like the majority of the season. Then it was Jakob Glesnes. And I talked about that earlier in the year.
Yeah.
I did not like Jakob as a captain. I did not feel like he was the proper leader. One more point too on the homegrowns, guys. This run of homegrowns is not as strong as what we had in like 2019, 2020.
Sure.
When you like the previous one, I'm talking about like Brendan Aronson, Mark McKenzie, Austin Trusty. What we have right now is not what we had back then. And that's definitely something to look at. Is it the player's mental psyche? I don't know. Is it the way that they are being treated? I don't know. But it is something that we definitely need to be looking at, because like now we're not selling these guys.
Yeah.
And Mike brought up a good point too. Like how much is it as well is like yes, Brennan and Mark getting sold is definitely big for the homegrowns and their future, because now these guys have something to look up to. But now is it too much like Quinn, like I'm just using an example. Like Quinn Sullivan has a great season, scores a goal. It's like, okay, what clubs are looking at me? What leagues am I looking at? You cannot be thinking about that. You have to let your play speak for itself, and then those European teams will come calling. So like these are definitely things that needs to be evaluated as well. Like we're going to talk a lot about how this roster needs to look next year and all that, but how we handle the homegrowns also needs to be evaluated going into next season.
It's a great point, because when you look at this season alone, you've had Damian Lowe, Jose Martinez, Julian Carranza getting big contracts, getting opportunities elsewhere. And the reality is, not only do you probably have guys that don't have the winning mentality, but you also probably have guys that are too busy looking at what's next.
Yeah,
and not focused on,
very
I
true.
care about winning games with the Union. I want to win championships with the Union. Instead, they're focusing on, hey, they got a big contract. I want to get a big contract too. I'm going to play well just enough to get out of here. And when you don't have the passion to truly want to be in a place and build, it's going to show.
Right.
And then the other thing I do want to share, because I know we're wrapping up shortly, is when you look at leadership, it's hard to lead when you yourself are struggling. And the other reality is this season, Andre Blake dealt with a ton of injuries, missed a lot of time. Jakob Glesnes, from the first own goal to the last own goal, was not sharp, was not good. Jack Elliott, that was the most scrambled I've seen him ever in his career. He just seemed a little bit more unhinged in a sense of like not as composed. He's usually a guy that doesn't show a lot of he does show you the occasional like excitement, but you don't get a lot of emotional ups or downs from him. I felt like this year was the first year we saw a lot of him just kind of like out of it. Kai Wagner is one that should be a leader, but between the comments he made last year and him potentially being someone that also had offers coming his way and could be out, I feel like he just had to lay low a little bit this season. Ali Bedoya, who was going to retire, and we obviously know the comments that went down last year that he heard of him not coming back to then come back for a year as a coach player. So how do you have somebody as a leader? Julian Carranza was that guy. Jose Martinez was that guy, but they're gone. Who is it? Daniel Gazdag? You don't really have a leader that
really
is playing. You need a leader that's playing well, that doesn't have to focus on their own struggles, because they are playing well and can now lead by example, lead and help others, uplift others. But you can't pick others up if your own oxygen mask isn't on.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead, man.
And I might be wrong, but there has to be some type of like gravity to this. And I know we're wrapping up here, so we can marinate on it. But I want to know if the whole Kevin Sullivan getting Manchester City, all that stuff, seeing, especially for Quinn and all the younger guys on the team, seeing his development and what he's going to be getting in his life, in his career, does that affect them and make their mindsets different?
That's a great point and question.
Yeah. I don't think it should or would, but I think the attention got a little bit annoying, because like even like us covering the team, the amount of questions you get about Kevin, even like from people who don't really watch the Union like that, they're like, oh, what is a 14-year-old legit? It's like, dude, he's 14 years old. Yes, he's good, but he's 14 years old. And I definitely think that it frustrated them just a little bit. And one more point I'm gonna end on this as well. Is it's so funny that they won't buy a big name player because they don't want it to mess with the culture within the dressing room, but their own philosophy of team building ruined their culture in the dressing room. And I think that is absolutely hilarious. But we're gonna have a lot of these next couple episodes. We're probably gonna be diving deep into the squad. what happened, what's next. So that's why you guys want to make sure you're hitting that like button and you're subscribing to PHLY Sports and also subscribing to wherever you listen to your podcast. We're available in there as well. We're going to have a lot more to talk about going forward. That's right. For Andrew Frazier behind the glass, of course, Renee Washington, the lovely Renee Washington. Of course, I am JP Zapata. DOOP on Philadelphia. It'll get better, I promise. Hopefully.
Bye.
We all silly like the